Here we go. Today, you will identify the various elements of setting so you can explain how setting can affect the mood of a story. Here we go. When you tell a story, there are certain elements that need to be there. You can kind of think of them as ingredients. If your story was a cake, it would need these different ingredients in order for the cake to rise or for the cake to have flavor or things like that. So, over the course of the next couple weeks, we're going to look at setting, characters, and plot. Today, we're going to focus on setting. So, setting consists of at least two elements and possibly a third. They are where, when, and possibly, maybe also perhaps, environment. Let's break these down and take a look at them individually. The where, the when, and maybe environment. Where. The where is a location. You can also say place. All action takes place in some sort of space. Think about it. You can't do something without it happening somewhere. And that's what the where part of setting is. Locations can be specific or they can be general. Specific locations will have a name. Generic locations will not have a name. Let's take a look at some examples. First, specific examples. New York. That place has a name. You could find it on a map. Jupiter has a name. If you really, really needed to, you could go to a solar system model and you could find Jupiter. Dave's house, as long as you know who Dave is, or you've been to his place before, or you've looked it up on Google Earth or whatever, Dave's house has a name. Dave's house. Generic locations would be things like a far off land, over the horizon, out near the woods. Okay, a far off land doesn't tell me exactly where. How far off? Over the horizon. If you went outside and you stood in your backyard and you found the horizon, you pointed at it, and you started moving around 360 degrees in a circle, that horizon would go all the way around you. So you wouldn't even know which direction to start heading. Out near the woods. Well, which woods? What constitutes being near those woods? Okay, those are all generic locations. Now let's look at the when part. The when is the moment or moments that the story happens. A story may take place over the span of a long time or just a quick moment. Time is something that can be manipulated in storytelling. We can even go forward in time or backwards in time if we need to. The when can also be specific or general. Specific times can be found on a clock or a calendar. Generic times would not be able to be found on calendars or clocks. So let's take a look at some examples of the when part of a story. Okay. June 9th, 1963. You could find that on a calendar. Not a calendar from this year, but you could find it. New Year's Eve. We all know when that is. Noon. You all know when noon is. Generic examples would include things like long ago or once upon a time, in the past, in the future. So we don't know exactly when it is happening. We just know that it is happening at some sort of time, and that can give us an idea of when the story might be being told. So if you say long ago, maybe we're in a fairy tale. If you say New Year's Eve, it's probably a little bit more modern. Okay, moving on. It is possible to have a third element of setting. Environment. Environment is what is happening to the place. For example, weather conditions. Stormy weather is a lot different than a nice sunny day. Okay, that can affect the setting. Noise levels. A big crowded city like New York City is going to be a lot different than a farm out in the middle of Kansas. Music playing. This is something that can really add to a story, and in fact, is in movies often added not for the characters in the story, but for the audience that is watching. Okay, a lot of times the audience can hear music that the characters can't. To be clear, environment is not always a factor, but the when and the where always are, always. Who cares? Well, I'm glad you asked. Setting is important because it helps support or shape a character's identity. For example, a character from 17th century London is going to have a much different existence than a character in present day New York City. Setting also helps create mood, like I was talking about a moment ago. A dark forest on a rainy night is going to create a different sort of mood for the audience than a bright, sunny spring day out in a meadow with flowers and green grass. Okay. It just is going to feel a little bit different. All right. That is it. You now have a few assignments on Canvas that you need to look at. Good luck.